So the lighting, we're gonna have a lamp coming through this window, haze it up, block off these windows to add some contrast, and then maybe light a tube for some ambience, and that's it. Pretty simple, run and gun style. What's going on, family? Welcome back to the lounge. It's your boy A1. Today, man, we're gonna break down a commercial shoot I did for a KU football player. His name is Jalon Daniels. He's a star quarterback. It was a shoot that I got hired for from an agency that I do a lot of work for. So it was a really, really cool spot. We had a whole crew for it. It's kind of run and gun because the athlete, we only had a limited time with them, but the setups and going into the shoot, it wasn't run and gun. There was a lot of planning to go into it. But when you're on the set with the athlete and there's limited time, you have to kind of set yourself up to make sure that you everything is quick and you can get through all the shots that you need. So that was this type of shoot. So if you follow me on Instagram, you probably seen I posted it on IG. If you're not, we're gonna go through the video, watch it through, and then I'm gonna break down some frames, break down some BTS. And hopefully, there's a lot of stuff that I feel like you can take from. So let's go ahead and dive into the commercial real quick.
I'm used to being the underdog. Underrated.
Studio setup, we'll talk about.
Second guessed, passed up, written off. Told I was
did some TV effect on this shot right here. So I thought that was cool. We'll break this down.
They don't say these things anymore.
We had 4 locations. We'll talk about 3 of them. Thought they did a good job on the edit.
Along the way,
definitely break this down.
From having nothing to lose to having something to prove.
Shots.
I learned the path to improvement is paved with pain. Obstacles are where breakthroughs are born.
That was the last location that we shot. We'll talk about kind of going into that location and how I prepped for that.
The more resilient I become, the more relentless I can be. Ask me how I got here, and I'll tell you I was put here for a reason. I grew up looking for my family in the stands.
That was a dope spot.
Now I find them in the thousands.
The transitions.
I wasn't born here.
Edit was good.
But I was born to be here. If you like what you've seen so far, wait till you see what's next.
Boom. There it is. I thought it turned out really good because sometimes I'll worry about, when I'm shooting for stuff how's it going to turn out? The footage and the lighting and everything turned out dope, but you never know until you get the edit back. So, that was, I was happy with the final product. So the first thing I want to talk about is just the specs. And so I'm going to break down kind of my setup with the camera, and we'll talk about the specs of the lighting. That's my shoulder rig. I feel like this is real mahogany wood. It's really comfortable. This attaches to a base that I can put rods on. So right here, it's kind of hard to see. These are 15 millimeter rods, and that you can put, anytime you see rods on a camera, you could put a matte box on it. My matte box right here is a bright tangerine misfit kick. That's what it's called, bright tangerine misfit kick. So if you don't know what a matte box is, this is a matte box for cameras that don't have internal ND. I have, you have slots for ND right here, or you can put filters in, black Pro Mist filters to make your footage bloom. And it also it comes with a flag. So if the sun, I don't have the top flag on it right now, but you can kind of flag the sun. So matte boxes are super useful when you're using cinema cameras. And so the lens that we're using, Sigma, I think I talked about this on another shoot, Sigma 18-35 Cine. I chose this lens because, number one, the versatility of the 18-35. Number 2, the Cine, which means it has these grips, these teeth that you can use for pull and focus. And number 3, I really like the look. They're super clean. They flare really well. A lot of the modern lenses don't flare really well, but these flare really well. So when it comes to camera, we have red Scarlet W, Sigma Cine 18-35, and on a matte box, shoulder rig, and also had my easy rig attached to it, so I can go from shoulder to just holding it low. And so some of the stuff, like, it looks like a big build out. I had an AC, a first AC on this shoot, and he's the one that's gonna prep the camera. He's the one that's going to set up the follow focus, set up the wireless monitoring for the director, and so that he can pull focus. All that stuff, like, that he puts on, like, that's his area. And so if I was to try to build this out, like, I wouldn't know half of this stuff, and it would take me like forever. That's not my expertise. So when you're on commercial shoots, you're gonna hire a first AC, so it's good to know first ACs in the area, or like a friend that you want to come up with that will learn, and so that you can focus on the lighting and the camera. And so this right here is his follow focus system. It's an airy system, and like I said, it's on the rails right here, and that's gonna pull the focus right here and connect to the teeth. That there's a cable running through here, and that's gonna connect to, I believe, this system right here, and that's to power. That's running power through my V mount, and running and giving it juice, for the motor. And then on this back right here, this thing right here is I think it's an Axis, whatever it is. It's a wireless monitoring system. And so, and that's also like the coil right here is connected to the D-tap, which V mounts and Go mounts have to your camera. So that's the setup, the specs for the camera. And when you're seeing, big build outs on cameras, that's like the first AC, second AC, just making sure they have everything they need on the camera to pull focus. Sometimes you'll have two of these, and one will be the focus, one will be on the iris back here. So like it might have another rig on this right here. So and then that you need to generate more power to power that, which adds more. So it just depends on the shoot, depends on the needs. But on commercials, you're most likely going to have a similar setup like this, where you have follow focus system, you'll have a wireless monitoring system. And that's the difference between, like, when you kind of start to level up from like a mirrorless camera or DSLR. You can rig those things out and do the exact same thing. It's just a lot easier when you have like a cinema camera. And then in the gym, just quick spec for the gym and the lights that we used in there. And so I'll run through that really quick, and then we'll hop into some of the frames. We used another Godox 1200 bicolor LED, similar to the Aperture 1200. We also used a Titan tube rigged up, and I'll break that down for some ambience. And then we used haze for some atmosphere. And that's the specs for the gym. Basically 2 lights, haze, and then we negged it. And I'll break all that stuff down once we get into those frames. So those are the specs, camera and lighting. We had I believe, let's see, 1, 2, 3, like a 4-person G&E crew. That's including the PA. And we had a director, we had wardrobe, we had a first AC, and a couple producers on set. So that's the whole breakdown of the crew and specs. So I feel like that was a lot. I feel winded, but I feel like that stuff is important. So I think getting into a couple of frames now, every time that I basically walk in a space, we had a prep day for this. So we did have a prep day where I was able to look at the studio, which was basically, like I said, an indoor baseball facility. And then we came out, we looked at this gym, and then we went out and we looked at the field that we shot at. And so when I'm looking and I'm walking into a space, the first thing I'm doing is like, okay, which direction are we going to shoot? Like, what's going to be easier to place lights in? If it's like this, if it's outside, okay, is there room to put a light stand so we can shoot in here? What do we need to do do we need to change anything? So for this, when I walked in, I was like, okay, me and the director decided we were going to shoot this way because it had most of the gym gear that we needed, the dumbbells and everything. So I'm like, okay, when I walking in with the gaffer, I'm saying we're shooting this way, and then on this side, I need all these windows blacked out, like all these windows. And so that's what we did. And so from that, I talk about it a lot, man, when I'm doing these cinematography breakdowns, and it's just a practice. Like this is like the baseline. So where's the key gonna be at, and do we have to neg anything? That right there alone, just taking out these windows, just already gives me an atmosphere, and because I'm shooting shadow side, it automatically gives me a head start. And so now we just got to introduce, a little bit ambience and a key light. And we're in business. So it's like, when you're walking in a space and you have like principles that you stick to as a DP, it makes it easier to know, what we can do in a quick amount of time to give us a really, really great image. And so that's what we did. They used, again, I believe, floppies and a 12 by to black these out. And then we went on the other side, and that's where we shot the, dang, that's a bad triangle. The 1200 Godex bicolor LED. And then just really quick right here, and I'll talk about it. There's a frame. I rigged the Titan tube. We rigged the Titan tube right here for some ambience. And we didn't have that on the whole time, only when he came over here and we shot, with the squats and stuff. We used that to bring down some ambience. Really quick, I talk about cheat codes a lot. Like lenses can be a cheat code. Another cheat code that I like to use is haze. And so right here, we got the key frame, we got the key light up, and when you're using a sourcey, like a spotlight light, the haze will actually create those beams that you see like in commercials and movies and stuff. And it also just creates just ambience. It you can also use it for it softens the light. And so that's what haze does, man. Like haze is pretty much a cheat code. You'll see it in a lot of commercials. You'll see it in a lot of movies. And the hazer that we used is called the Smoke Genie Pro Kit. It's another one of my boy Travis's, one of his little gadgets that he sells on the Syndicate list. It's like a handheld. Like I'm gonna go back right now and show you exactly if you can see it. Like literally, just like I think that's why like it's so cool. Because it's like this little small handheld hazer. So just a little tip on that end of what hazer, you can go out and check out. I think it's a little expensive. I think it's like $600. But it was useful for us because you can, I think it charges. You don't have to plug it up. So, makes life easier. So now that we went through the specs and the spaces, I want to break down some frames, and I'm just kind of going through some frames that I picked out that I thought really quick. Like this one is a medium shot, him standing up. This one's a close up. This one is like I'm just kind of at this point we were like freestyling, getting as much footage as we could, and so this is like where I'm just kind of playing around with the camera, different angles, and it made it into the final. These aren't things that the director is saying like, hey, get this. I'm like, hey, can I play around real quick? And just because I know what I like and what looks good, I'm getting a bunch of different coverage. And I think I replied to somebody talked about in the Patreon on the post, like, coming from news and journalism, they talked about, get your wide, your medium, your tight. Is that still applicable when it comes to DPing? And absolutely, that's still applicable. And that's what we did on this. We went for the wide. This is the wide. And then we went in for the medium. And then I went in for a bunch of tights. So, like, as a DP, that's part of, lighting is one thing. But then the actually, like, getting coverage is, like, one of the most important things. Making sure you're getting your establisher. If you have time, getting medium and tights. But getting a bunch of different shots so that the editor can play around with and post is just as important, because you can light your tail off, but if you don't get the coverage that you need, the final product's not going to be great. And so I'm always like stealing shots even in between takes, hopping off and getting different little cutaways, and so that's super important. But yeah, man, I just thought that this location was super dope, and it turned out really great. So going into the gym, Like I said, this is another one of those coverage shots where, the director was talking to Jalon, and I'm just like kind of stealing different shots that look cool. And this is just like kind of a gritty, shooting shadow side, highlighted, super duper, dope kind of cutaway that we used. And so where I placed the light was super important because we had a couple different places that we wanted to shoot within the gym. And so it's barely peeking out, like right here where the light's at, and the stand is not in it visible. But I wanted to like, you could put it here, but it'd be blasting, or you can go higher, but I wanted to put it just perfectly right here so that I had the latitude to, like, if I wanted to flare, I just bring the camera a little low and move over. But if I didn't, we still had a nice edge right here. We're still shooting shadow side, and it's also bringing up the gym. Just that light alone, not only is it keying our subject, but it shoots ambience in the room where it's bouncing off the walls and stuff like that. So, you don't need a ton of lighting when it comes to like lighting these gyms. You have one source, and you know what side you're shooting on, like we talked about in the beginning. You're in good shape. And this isn't possible if we don't black out those windows on the other side. Then it'd be like way too washed out, way too bright. But this is how you create like something moody. So this is probably some of my favorite looking shots. I've shot something similar before, and like I said, the placement of the lamp on the outside was so critical because I knew I had to light multiple different, locations within that small gym. Not even locations, but multiple different sets, or I don't know what to call it, places, just amongst the gym. And so having that light right there, and then getting the exposure right of, the intensity of where you want it, is super important, because now it's like you don't have to adjust anything. And this is just like a perfect frame, man, when it comes to, I wouldn't say perfect, but a perfect example of when you have, your key right here, you have, you're shooting, you have like salt and pepper in the background, light, dark, like I always talk about, it's the framework, cinematography framework. Dark, light, dark, you have your key, you have shooting in the shadow, man. Like that is such a you don't know why you like it, but if you look at it and you can break it down, you know why you like it. It's because it's keyed, you're shooting shadow side, and it's just a good frame. And then even we have like a little ambience light hitting here, because this is the Titan tube that I had rigged, and I had kept that on. And you don't just lose them. It's not like completely black. So I really like this frame. This is gonna like be on my website for sure. And he's edged out right here from the ambience, and then we got like blackness that kind of, pops him out the background. And so I think another kind of thing to talk about here is like knowing, the melanin that you're shooting. And so Jalon Daniels, he's a dark skinned brother, So you have to, when you're lighting white skin, brown skin like mine's, darker skin, you have to like know where your exposure is at, and knowing that, like, lighting him correctly so that he doesn't just fall out in the background or whatever. For me, as a DP of color, I'm conscious of those types of things because I feel like it can be looked over, if you're not. And so I'm conscious of making sure the exposure on my monitor is gonna be, it's not gonna be perfectly mid gray, proper exposure. It's gonna be a little under because his skin is darker, but that's where it needs to be in order for him to be exposed properly. So those are things that, as a DP, that you got to be mindful of even the skin type that you're shooting. But anyways, this is one of my favorite frames of the shoot. Like I said, I did something similar in a short film that I shot back in like 2020 or 2019. I think it was like 2019. And I kind of moved the camera, as they were doing the ropes. So I just duplicated this, the exact same shot for this commercial. And so like, that's where experience comes in, and knowing what looks good and what doesn't. And again, another frame that's probably going to live on website just to kind of talk about this again. Key, and we have some contrast here, but we also have like some ambience here, kind of filling this in, and it's just a dope frame, And then the haze, you kind of see what the haze is doing right here. It's just creating that atmosphere, And like I said, you won't even notice that when you're watching commercials or films, but if you're wondering, like, man, how do they like this, like haze kind of just it's like magic, It just makes your ambience like foggy, and it doesn't even look like fog. It just looks like mists, So play around with that, man, especially in gym atmospheres. Man, haze will do the trick, and it'll elevate the production that and clients will be happy. I believe that is the end of the breakdown. That was a longer breakdown, but hopefully I broke down exactly how you can create a commercial for an athlete, or in the gym if you're doing a spec. We'll talk about more about spec work, man, in the future, and how important it is to create stuff on your own so that you can land jobs like this. Because I did a spec project very similar to this, 2 of them, and now I'm getting hired, to shoot stuff like this because of the previous work that people have seen me do, and it was all spec work. And so the more you practice, the more you have on your portfolio, the more likely you'll get hired to shoot brand spots, commercials, the stuff that if you're into it like I am, like the stuff that you really want to do. And so hopefully that was helpful. If you have any questions, like I say all the time, leave in the comments. I'll try to put some of the descriptions or some of the links to some of the lights and stuff in the description. And coming back with some more cinematography breakdowns and some more Finance Fridays in the future, man. So appreciate y'all. Peace. Thanks for hanging out with your boy in the lounge. This video right here was actually a shorter version of a longer version that I have up on my Patreon. So if you're interested in that, go check it out. I go a little bit more deeper on the business side, as well as some of the setups. Also, if you sign up, members also have access to a private Facebook group, as well as exclusive content to things like day rates, how to choose your day rate, what to do when to go freelance, just some tips and tricks that I learned coming up. So if that sounds like something you're into, check it out. If not, stay locked in with your boy right here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Peace.